All right, now we're good.
So, we're FTC Team 7477 in the robotics team in Vito, Florida, and I'm part programmer on the team. Uh,
I'm Pranay. I'm the lead hardware designer for the team. I work on everything that has to do with the hardware of the robot.
I'm Bernal, and I'm the programmer of the team.
Nice to meet you guys. I am Elaine Schomburg-LaFleur. Background is mechanical engineering, and I work as a project manager at the Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World.
Nice to meet you.
yeah, so for our first question, maybe you want to talk about some, like, cool, maybe interesting projects you've done recently?
Sure. Well, I had the wonderful opportunity to lead the effort for the 50th celebration. So all of the decorations and painting of the castle that you guys saw, that was me. As well as I'm currently taking them down. So it's gone a full circle for 18 months. The project manager for Vermont and to Vermont. I was project lead on the effort that you saw at Pirates. With the changeover for Red, we worked on a dual project with that team at Imagineering. I helped change out the electrical panel that fed all of the um, animation. So every single piece of animation in Pirates, that was my project. And that's just to name a few. So that's one thing I like about being a project manager is though even my background is mechanical engineering, I get to do all types of things, whether it's learn electrical panels at Pirates, or work on rock work at Jungle Cruise, or work on concrete at Haunted Mansion, you name it, I get to learn about it, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. So, in robotics, we, like, learn a lot of different, like, hard skills, which include software and hardware, as well as soft skills, like communication and teamwork. So, do you want to talk, would you, like, maybe, like, talk about how, like, maybe some of the hard skills or soft skills used in your job could transfer to the field of robotics?
Absolutely. So what you guys do for robotics is the same thing we do both in animation and in the ride. So for instance, when it comes to any pieces of animation, you could not do that without the partner and a mechanical engineer who helps size the actuators that move things, as well as the programmer who tells the musicians where to go. So that's a perfect example of exactly what you guys do, just with animation instead of a robot. When it comes to a ride, you pick any vehicle, pick any attraction, Seven Dwarfs, you name it. That's the combination of a mechanical engineer and electrical engineer working together when it comes to the vehicle moving around, going through brake zones, timing things, braking. We work hand in hand throughout all of those things.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so talking about those skills and working hand in hand with everything so it all collaborates. Because there's like so many things that have to be done, I'm sure for Disney during any given point in the year, or for us during any point in the season, we have so many tasks that need to be accomplished. I'm sure communication plays a very important role for you guys, just like it does for us in the robotics team. So could you talk a little bit about how you guys like communicate with each other on a day-to-day basis, and how you guys communicate effectively so you guys are able to get tasks done efficiently?
Now, you're absolutely correct. Any team, any good team needs to have good communication. So part of it is knowing each other's style. Some people love to text, some people like to IM, some people like to do phone calls, some people like email. So it's learning the styles of your partners and kind of bending a little bit as you need to make it work for the team. Some projects are so crucial that you want to do daily because you're just trying to meet a certain schedule. So it's knowing the cadence. Sometimes the cadence is daily. Sometimes it's actually monthly, depending on things. So it's knowing the frequency of it. It's knowing the urgency of it, and just working with each other to understand the risks and being on that same page of those at all times. A big piece of my job is communication and making sure everybody knows the next steps and what's going on.
Yeah, that makes sense because a lot of what we do in robotics, like when we have a tournament coming up, we usually meet more and more frequently leading up to the tournament. So a lot of times we meet on the weekends and we meet like 4 hours on Saturday and Sunday. But then when the tournament week happens, we usually meet either every day or close to every day, just so that we make sure that the robot's done and ready. So to be successful in robotics, we usually have to lay out like a plan multiple months in advance or something, so that we know what we're going to be doing it in advance. Could you describe how you guys use any sort of planning to be successful at the tasks that you accomplish in your job?
No, absolutely. now I have a fun, challenging one, especially because it was announced they are going to change the meet and greet over at Fairy Tale Garden. So right now it is Merida, and it's going to be changing to Maribel, and that's our project. So that they've already announced when it closes, they've already announced when it opens. So as the project manager, I have to lay out to make sure that I'm going to get there. A couple of things I take into consideration is all of the critical, we call critical milestones to get there, especially if there's a critical path to that. For us, getting through permit is a big thing. So as a project manager, I start working backwards to make sure we can get to the start date perfectly. Do I have all my drawings ready? Have I set it for the permit? Have I got the submittals bought off? So I know all of those milestones and how they go to how they connect throughout every stage of the project. So that's the first way that you get there, and then understanding any lead times. I'm sure you guys run into that as well. When it comes to getting the parts in, sometimes you have to pivot. If you can't get a certain part in, you're going to have to go and find something different to make the timeline. So it's being ahead of the game and knowing what you need to be successful to get to that end date. In your case, probably a competition. For me, the opening date for that project.
Sounds like a lot like us. Like we need to just make sure we have everything in place leading up to the tournament. So we're not like.
Yeah, so adaptability to sudden changes and problems is often like a key component to success in our robotics competitions. But have you had to be easily adaptable to big changes in your job? And is the product that you make built to be adaptable or fixable when such setbacks happen?
Absolutely. Any good project manager is thinking through the risks that are going to happen. And so you do your best to try to lay out when you open, let's say you're going to open up a wall to do something, what are you going to find? What could go wrong? And start thinking through that risk. So the more you prepare, the more successful you are to get to that end milestone. And then sometimes they pop up and even you never even thought about that happening, and have to get there and think, okay, what do we do now? And that goes back to that communication. Always make people aware if things are not going to be on time, or if we're not going to open up, if there's going to be an issue or anything guest impact, especially when we're working with a coaster or a kitchen. When you guys come to the park, you want to make sure that the ride opens, right? So if there are going to be any issues, we want to elevate that. So trying to think through, trying to be prepared, and then just working as a team when it happens to get through it, especially if you weren't expecting it, and then continuing just to communicate until you find that solution and work through the issue.
So another question is, in robotics teams, there are a lot of people with a bunch of different skill sets, from like programmers to builders to graphic designers. Is it common in your workplace for people with different skill sets to work together?
Absolutely. My world is full of engineers who are very technical in nature, plus I have all of my operators or my creative imagineers. They're all coming from very different backgrounds, different perspectives, and so quite often you're making sure that you're telling the story and setting the scope so that everybody understands it. With that comes different perspectives, with that comes different priorities, and it's just trying to understand that at the beginning. So getting to understand what's important to each person and being empathetic to that is very critical when establishing that team.
Alright, that sounds cool. Another question is, it's kind of related to number 6, but has there been any instances where you faced a major like setback in production of a product? And if you need to make any quick moves to fix the problem. So like, for example, in one of our competitions, we've been facing like wiring issues, and we often have to like make drastic changes and just deconstruct our robot to resolve the problem and reconstruct in like a matter of like 10 minutes. Is there any instances where you've had to deal with that, and if so, how have you had to deal with that?
I've had both it happen in design and in the field. So design-wise, we've done a layout, and we tried very hard to do a simulation to see how things are going to go. And the original layout that we had done wouldn't work. We weren't going to get the braking that we wanted, so we had to redo it. It's a lot better in design to catch it, so you had more time. One of my most interesting things at night that we had to pivot So I was working as an engineering services manager at Everest, and we were hearing some noise. Have you guys ridden Everest?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's the point where you see the broken trestle, where you go up and you park and there's a broken trestle. Well, there's these pivot motors, and those pivot motors were having issues, and we needed to fix them as fast as possible. But it was already like 3 in the morning when we found out this issue. So there we are trying to figure out how we're going to open. And the park opens at 9. We're not going to be able to replace all of them. So we actually started getting out the pen and paper. I'm sure you guys remember your 1/2 mv squared equals mgh. And started doing calculations on what we could do, how many motors we had to change out. And so getting those motors up and down 17 flights of stairs, getting things ready to go. We actually calculated we needed to load 1 less car for the day to get through. And so we changed out as many motors as we could, relayed to operations that they were going to have to run 1 less car. Basically, we ran down the stairs after everything had been tested and ready to go, right as the park was opening and people were coming in. So we'll never know what we went through that night to get that attraction to be open. But we made that happen. So that was one of my most stressful times, and I slept well that night. We worked really hard.
Yeah. So another question I have is like in robotics, oftentimes you have conflict like with a team or with someone else or something like that. So with your management, like there's so many guests also that you have to work with. So how do you deal with conflict? Like how do you officially deal with conflict?
Absolutely. I mean, conflict can happen. I'm sure you guys have it sometimes on your own team, because as we talked about earlier, people come with different perspectives. So it's trying to hear all the stories and understand what's going on. When things happen with guests, you're trying to understand their perspective and trying to relay to them what you did, what you tried to do to solve the problem. A big key thing in that is empathy, and if you can work on those skills, it's going to really help you be successful. Every engineer will do better if they listen and hear all the challenges and kind of think through everybody's perspective, because it's easy to say, well, I designed it the best I could, but maybe you're hearing something from them and could have tweaked things and made it a little bit different to the next time.
Yeah. And I know that like with the project management, you must have to like you have to have your things in place. You have to like assign jobs to other people, and like in robotics, like for example, the captain of the team need to like be able to officially assign tasks to people. So is there any like, specific tools or methods that you use to be able to do that and make sure that you're able to meet all those deadlines and things?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's very important to learn how to delegate, and there's certain team members that you feel comfortable just delegating the task and you know they're going to run with it. There's some people I'm sure you see that you have to maybe follow up with or set deadlines to make sure that's going to happen. So it's learning each person, learning how to check in, make sure everybody's doing things, reach out to help each other if you need to get to that point. It's always fun. So sometimes I delegate to somebody because I know that they're strong at it. Sometimes I delegate to somebody because I think it's something they need to work on and that it will help them grow. And so as a project manager, you're trying to think through all of those things and just continuing to just check in and make sure you're hitting your schedule.
I think that like shows how much like you like different tasks in robotics. You learn also like hard skills and like how to deal, delegate and stuff. So I think that's all the questions for me. Renal or Pranay, do you guys have any other questions?
Nothing from me.
Pranay, would you like to ask anything else? I don't know, you might be having, it looks like it's like the video's not working or something, so.
Yeah, no, I think it's fine.
Yeah, yeah, I think he's like, so yeah, I think that's
Hey,
it.
can you guys hear me now?
Oh, okay. There
Yeah.
you
Yes, we can hear you.
Sorry, I had one last question left that I wanted to ask.
Thanks.
And so one thing that I have trouble with even now on the team is that we have a lot of people on the team that have knowledge of like different areas, and so I can compare this to like there's a lot of different fields in engineering, like electrical engineering, mechanical engineering. So as captain of the team, a lot of times I have trouble sometimes getting people to understand each other's perspectives, trying to get hardware people to understand software's perspective, and the other way around as well. And so a lot of times it can lead to like disagreement through getting people to understand each other's deadlines, and what exactly other people are working on. So as project manager, how do you like account for this this understanding difference between different fields that may occur within a team, and how do you account for that and make sure everyone understands what everyone else is doing?
I've had that happen. Even during the 50th celebration, I had partners coming at things from very different perspectives. You know, Imagineering wanted something, entertainment wanted something different. And so, quite often, the project manager is very much like the captain, where you have separate meetings with people just to kind of chat it out and talk about it. And I find if you ask a lot of questions instead of trying to talk, to tell, instead of dictating or saying, hey, we need to make this happen, if I ask questions to that person about the other person's perspective, you hear them start to think of it from a different way. So like when we were trying to pick the color of the castle to make sure it got what the Imagineers wanted, but worked with the projection on the castle, I had to have those conversations to make sure everybody saw the other person's perspective. So that's my biggest advice to you, is just try to ask those questions and see and build that empathy with the other people, and I think you're going to see them come together and really take in the other person's perspective better.
Yeah, I think
especially when you stress the idea that they have something to teach or something to share. People love to teach and share.
It was really cool to see like a park that we all go to, like so we're in Orlando, so the park that we go to so often, like how it's run and like what we can do like in engineering and just project apply to that. So Pranay and Merle, is that all for you?
Yep.
Yes, thank you for coming on this interview, and we learned a lot. And
thank you guys for reaching out. I really enjoy getting to share some information with you on what it's like to be a project manager. You can see there's a lot of correlations. So hope to see you guys doing project management in your future.
Yeah. And bye.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
guys. Have a good night.
Bye bye.
You too.
Have a good night.